you know, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm ready.
Please silence your cell phones, Don. Shut the door. Well, give me the green light. Is it green?
Yeah, I gave you the green light.
Oh, you did, sorry.
We are good to go.
All right.
I'm on YouTube. I think we're all here.
All right. Let's put that there. So let's get started. Let's start out with the refuge and bodhicitta prayers. Kind of set the motivation. Again, the prayers, you have to understand what they mean. Otherwise, it's just ritual, empty ritual. Nobody likes that. They have to put some effort in understanding the deeper meaning of these prayers, because they are very profound. And anyway, without going into too much detail,
It's page,
I did,
Don, page 34 in the
yeah.
Go Prayer Book.
So one time I did, anyway, I've always been kind of anti-ritual, I mean, I was just, didn't really understand it, and raised Presbyterian, whatever that means. I still don't know what it means, by the way. Clearly, I didn't get it. So anyway, I didn't have much respect for ritual until I did one retreat once upon a time, and it saved my life. I mean, honest to God, I couldn't believe how helpful it was, because I began to start understanding what the prayers meant, and it sort of got me going in the right direction. And before that, I was kind of like floundering. But then I really started appreciating the power of these words when I understood what they meant. So I really encourage you to not, don't just say these words and not make some effort to understand what they mean. Okay, so we're going to start out with, we can do the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer. Remember the four measurables: immeasurable love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and the seven-limb prayer. I think I told you last time, I thought it was kind of cool. When I learned this, I thought it was kind of cool. You know, the first line is, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. Well, prostrating is a way of paying respect, right? So it's a way of paying respect. And it's an antidote to arrogance. And arrogance is said like to be the biggest, if not, it's probably the biggest obstacle to learning. When we think we know everything, we're not open. So it's a way of really opening ourselves up to the teachings, and then presenting offerings of every type, actual and imagined. Well, offering, again, that's sort of the energy of offering is going out, isn't it? So it's sort of opening our heart up. And so practicing generosity in this way sort of opens us up to be able to benefit from the teachings. But it also creates the causes for us to receive. You know, being generous creates the causes for us to receive. And then declaring negative actions since beginning this time. And we've done a lot of stuff. I mean, according to Buddhism, we've had countless lives. We've made Hitler look like an altar boy. You know, we've done it all. We've done it all, and we've seen it all. And it's, it's one of the ways to think anyway. And so declaring our negative actions, that's the first step in purification, and beginning to purify these sort of karmic weeds and seeds in our mental continuum so that we can make some progress. So we have to be able to acknowledge. So it is the first step in purification. Remember the 4 opponent powers. Then rejoicing in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. It creates first of all, rejoicing, I mentioned last time, is an antidote to jealousy. Okay? So if you're jealous of like so-and-so has so much money, or they're so attractive, or they have the best family and the best job and the best vacations and stuff like that, that's poisonous to our mind. But if we go, well, how great, look how beautiful she is or he is, they must have done something really virtuous in their past life to be attractive in this life. I mean, there's a cause for that. There's a karmic cause for it. Or if they have a lot of resources, it's because they were generous in past lifetimes, again, according to the Buddhist worldview. And so either way, rejoicing in people's good fortune is the antidote to jealousy. Like, I use the absurd example, but it's not absurd, because people do, if your spouse leaves you for somebody else, or your significant other leaves you, and you go, how great that they found someone that they can really love, because clearly I wasn't that person. I hope they're happy. Versus what we ordinarily do. Get a Ouija doll and start sticking pins in it and stuff. Anyway, you see what I mean? So there's every one of these lines has something to say. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence. So we're asking the teachers to remain and teach us. That creates the causes for us, and to turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. So it gives us, these are creating the causes for us to receive teachings for many eons to come. And then the dedication of merit is not exactly how to say it any other way other than dedication is a way of sealing the positive potential that we created, Like tonight we will have created, hopefully, some positive potential, merit, good karma, and if we don't dedicate it in the best possible way, that good karma, it will ripen in something positive, there's no doubt, because that's just the way karma is. I mean, that's how we define karma. If you experience happiness, it's because you created good karma or pleasure or something positive. And if you experience suffering, well, that's the product of negative karma. And so here we want this particular good karma that we create tonight, not just for this life or a new Mercedes or good job or whatever, but we want to dedicate it to supreme enlightenment in order to benefit all beings, which is the bodhicitta motivation. The whole purpose of our class is, to understand, get a deeper dive into this concept of bodhicitta, the awakening mind. So anyway, so that's what that means. So let's do the taking refuge, because we've discussed, I see some new phases here, but we've touched on all the meaning of all these prayers in previous classes. So sorry, but you just got that one. Just a note, drive-by overview of what the 7-limb prayer means. You could spend a month meditating on the meaning of that prayer. It's that profound. All right, so also, in Buddhism, I think every spiritual tradition, they do, people put their hands together, right? Anybody know what this means? Anybody got some sense about it? I think one of the reasons that we do it is that our heart is here. You know, we usually think of our heart, mind, you know, in Buddhism we think of, when we talk about mind, really we're talking about it, not, this is brain and, you know, gray matter, whatever it is, what is stuff, chemicals and everything, but we think of the mind as really being here. So we want to hold our hands at our heart, and then in Tibetan Buddhism we put the two thumbs together, and the hands like this. So, and these two thumbs represent a wish-fulfilling gem. And a wish-fulfilling gem is this mythical gem that fulfills any wish that we have. And of course, the most auspicious wish would be the wish to become a Buddha. You know, so it's that amazing. We imagine that we're holding this jewel that will fulfill all of our wishes and help us to benefit others. And then also we talk about like the left hand, representing female energy, and the right hand representing male energy. And so the union of male and female energy, and the wish-fulfilling gem, and we hold our hands at our heart so that we come from the heart when we say the prayers. So that's one of the reasons we do this. All right. So, ready? Is that my Omse? Are you going to be the Omse? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends or hatred for enemies. And then the seven limb prayer. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence, and turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment.
We'll do the short mantra offering. Again, this is imagining we're offering like a universe is literally of everything that's beneficial to the gurus, to the teachers, in order to be able to receive the teachings. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayami. Okay, so let's do So start out with some meditation. We'll do some mindfulness meditation. Most people, hopefully, have had some experience doing this kind of practice. And I'll interject some things that try to keep us on track and give the practice a little direction. And then I'm gonna these points up here. You don't have to look up unless you want to. But we're gonna do, and we're beginning to work on this muscle called bodhicitta, and we need to. Tonight's going to be a fair amount of me talking and didactic stuff. Sorry, but I want. There's certain things that are really important, and you really have to know at least this practice you have to memorize. I mean, sometimes there's 11 points, sometimes there's even 12 points, and I'll give you a handout. Next time I'll dig it up and give you a handout to take home. But it's this practice is worth memorizing, and trying to even do like a very simple meditation, even touching on, Lama Yeshe Lama Zopa used to say, every day you should do this meditation, do these meditations on equanimity plus this combination. This is combining, I'll talk to you about it in a minute. There are two different ways to develop bodhicitta. One is the 7 cause and effect meditation, and another one's called exchanging self with others. And one of them came through Atisha to Tibet, and the other one the lineage was through Shantideva, and Lama Tsongkhapa combined those two in this particular meditation to develop bodhicitta, the awakening mind. So we'll do this at the end of we'll do maybe 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness practice, and then I'll touch on these. I'm not going to go into depth. I'll go into depth later, but it's important that we begin to familiarize ourselves with each of these topics, because I think of all the practices, and I've been doing this for a long time, not with a lot of success, but I've been doing it, and I find that certainly I'm happier than I was before I started practicing Buddhism. That I can say. But I think this is the most important practice in all of Buddhism to me, this meditation right here. So for me it has been. I think it's worth touching on, and then we'll go deeper. Each of the remaining classes will try to pick apart some of these aspects, plus the 6 perfections. All right, so sit up straight. Your spine straight, your hands in your lap, shoulders back and down, chin tucked in, eyes either closed or partly open to let some light in. It helps to keep your mind more sharp, more alert. Tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. To sort of channel the saliva down the back of your throat so you don't have to swallow all the time. And start out with some deep breaths, and maybe have the exhalation be longer than the. In fact, it's kind of nice to take a deep breath and just hold it for a count or two, and then exhale, but have the exhalation be longer than the inhalation. Do that 3 times. And bring your awareness just back to the experience of breathing. And experiencing the complete cycle of inhalation and exhalation. And being aware of your body and the fact that you're sitting, body's upright. And whatever dominates your awareness at the moment can become the object, the focus of your meditation. It could be the sound of the HVAC, or the pain in your knee, or the back, or a headache, or anything, a thought, a feeling. And notice whatever is predominant in your awareness. Notice how it's changing, like every millisecond. It's changing, 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 changing. This. Sometimes we call it subtle impermanence. Just notice how whatever you're experiencing through any of your sensory doors is in constant state of flux. Even the sense of self, that's the observer, the sense of self that's observing the whole process of meditating. Notice how that's changing. And we're in this flux, this continuous process of mind and body in a state of constant change. Where is there an I? Can you point to a mind moment that's an I? Or part of your body that's an I? A sense of, not just, we're talking about this reified sense of I or self, this egocentric notion that, I am sitting and I am meditating. Where is this I in this constant state of flux of mind and body? And when we look, what do we find? So the last minute, pay very close attention to the process of breathing. You might notice the sensation at the tip of you can breathe, you can count out, you can a little mental whispering out in with each breath, or you can notice the sensation at the tip of the nose or the rising and falling of the abdomen or chest, or you can just follow the breath as it comes in all the way down into your lungs and then back out. Whatever works for you. But just pay very close attention to every aspect of the inhalation and exhalation. Now relax your concentration. was thinking my original plan was to do to do this meditation now, but I think what I'll do is because I want you to understand, I want us to understand more about why we're doing it, what we're doing. So I don't know about the people on YouTube. Can they see this? Does it show up on the camera? I don't think can you see it? This
It does not show up on Zoom.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
You have to be up close to read it. So I'll read it. It'll be pretty straightforward. All right. So I'm going to stand up, and because it's actually a flip chart. All right. Again, I think this is important. An important practice. Lama Zopa, who's he and Lama Yeshe are my two principal gurus, I think, and Lama Zopa just harped on bodhicitta. This was his thing, and Lama Yeshe did as well. So, cultivating bodhicitta, because it's not natural. It is not. We don't wake up in the morning thinking, wow, I want to get enlightened so I can help everybody. I want to be a Buddha and liberate all sentient beings. That's not a default mode for anybody. It's something that has to be cultivated with effort. Okay, so this is a combination of the two meditations that were 7 cause and effect and all that we talked about. The 7 cause and effect and exchanging self with others. So I'm going to read this for the people at home. I'm not going to go as far as I had planned. I got a whole bunch of pages here, but it's just too much. So what is bodhicitta? This, and how do we cultivate it? And what are some of the things that we need to think about before we jump into it? Well, the first comment up here says, it says deep and continuous meditation on the defects of samsara gives rise to renunciation. The aspiration for liberation, this aspiration is self-compassion. All right? So we talk about the 3 principles of the path: renunciation, bodhicitta, and wisdom, with a correct view of emptiness. Okay? Well, renunciation is the beginning of the whole path. And without some, well, the Buddha said it in the First Noble Truth. The 4 Noble Truths basically are: you're sick, there's a cause for the sickness, it can be cured, and here's the medicine, and the medicine's the path. So, renunciation's a huge. That's such a big deal. We don't think about it that much, but it's such a big deal. And that's why, a lot of people think Buddha, again, we think Buddhism's kind of negative because they talk about suffering and, dukkha, and the suffering of birth, and sickness and aging and death, and meeting leads to parting, and high position leads to low position, and all composite things are separated into their parts, and we have to take a body again and again, and die again and again, and meet with people that we love and have to separate from them again and again. And on top of all of that, we're never, ever, 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 ever satisfied. Lama Zopa said, worst suffering in all of samsara is dissatisfaction, the dissatisfied mind. We're never satisfied. We keep thinking if we could just get the right partner or go the right vacation or the right this, whatever. Somehow we'll find satisfaction, but it's never going to come out there. It's never going to come from stuff. It has to be cultivated internally. And so we recognize that we are, as the Buddha said, all worldlings are deranged. I've heard that description too. We're worldlings, where all of us have problems, and they're queuing up. Like right now, things are good, right? Right this minute, my foot's sore, but other than that, pretty good. But they're just queuing up. I mean, there are problems coming our way. There is no way to get away from it. And, well, I'm going to say situations, because pain is not synonymous with suffering, is it? You get what I mean? It has to do with attitude. I mean, I know, I've seen people that are in pain that, obviously people have different tolerances, right? The American Eskimos and the Tibetans in particular, the ones from Tibet, are the most stoic people I've ever met. I mean, anyway, I could just, pain does not mean suffering necessarily. So our perception is everything. So this whole renunciation, coming to grips with our situation that we are suffering, we're experiencing dukkha, and we have to get it, that we have, even though you don't feel that way, most of the time you probably don't, you say, well, my life's pretty good. I mean, I've got a place to stay, and I got a car, I got a girlfriend, I got a husband, a wife, children, got a good job, blah, blah. Things are pretty good. And not to say that they're not pretty good, but the floor of all of this is dukkha, is problematic, is suffering. And in this, when you understand the breadth of what the Buddha is talking about, we realize that we're in trouble. And this life will end. It will come to an end. And then what happens? Maybe we just go into oblivion. If there is a future life, which way do we go? How's it going to go? So this is really recognizing that we are suffering. And as long as you don't think you're suffering, you have no interest in the spiritual path. Really, there's no juice. Because you don't have any sense that, well, there's, it's like somebody who's like vomiting blood, but they go, oh, I don't have a problem. Bloody diarrhea, even worse. Oh, I'm fine, no big deal. Just complete oblivion. We're like that, and so we have to get it that we're trapped in this process of uncontrolled causation, not only in this life, but from the Buddhist perspective, countless lives up until now. This has been going on a long time. And so we have to have this aspiration for liberation, this sort of determination to be free. This is the beginning of the path. This is the first step on any spiritual path, is to realize that we have a problem and we want to be free of that problem. And so we have compassion for ourselves. Like, okay, I don't want to suffer anymore. I'm tired of suffering. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. So this is what Buddhism means when they talk about self-compassion and renunciation being kind of synonymous. Alex Burson, he translates renunciation as just determination to be free. To be free of what? To be free of suffering. But if you don't think you're suffering, you have no energy. So we literally have to be like we have, I like this saying, like our hair's on fire. We have to get it that our hair's on fire and put the fire out. What's the best, if you want to keep somebody in jail, what's the best way to keep them in jail? To not let them know they're in jail. As long as you don't think you're in jail, you got no determination to get out. So we have to realize that we're in jail. We're in the jail called uncontrolled causation, samsara, the wheel of life that Robbie taught. That's what, and we need to have compassion, enough compassion for ourselves to make a determination to be free. Well, guess what? It's not just me and you, it's all of us. It's universal living beings. So knowing that all beings experience the defects of samsara, remember the cycle of uncontrolled causation that we're talking about, so dukkha, and wanting them to be free is compassion. That is the basis of bodhicitta. So self-compassion is one thing, but in Buddhism we define compassion as the wish that others could be free of suffering and its causes. So it's the wish that others, all beings, could be free of suffering and its causes. And wanting them to be free, that's compassion, and that's the basis of bodhicitta. So bodhicitta makes the mind, this is kind of nice, Dalai Lama quote, but I love this. Bodhicitta makes the mind very joyful due to having great love and great compassion. And what do we mean by great? Because there's love and compassion for your, for your family, for the people that are close to you. That's a given. But this is, when we're trying to develop bodhicitta, we're really talking about going way beyond, your little family. We're talking about universal living beings. We're talking about everybody. So it's not small. So great love and compassion. So that's where that's our destination. It's an aspiration. We'll never get there, but we're going to aspire to it. And then who knows, maybe we will look at this someday, because how do we get to places? We have aspirations, and then we work toward that. So bodhisattvas, I'm throwing out these words, these terms that we use a lot. Bodhisattvas are who? Bodhisattvas are these beings that have realized bodhicitta. Again, bodhi means awakening, chitta means mind, the awakening mind, this altruistic intention to achieve supreme enlightenment based on love and compassion to benefit all beings. That's bodhicitta, okay? And someone who has the realization. We use that word realization. What do we mean by that? It means that you've done the work, you've done the contemplations, you've done the meditation, and you literally you're living those. The meaning of those words are in your heart. I mean, you're living it. You're living bodhicitta. You're walking. I mean, I think Lama Zopa, bless his heart. I miss him. He died last year, but he was the closest thing to a Buddha. I mean, His Holiness I've met too, but I saw Lama Zopa a lot. He's like he was walking, talking bodhicitta. Just never slept, hardly ever slept. And when he did this dream yoga stuff, stayed up all night, did prayers for students all over the world, and did it for like 50 years, maybe longer. So bodhisattvas are these beings that have realized bodhicitta, and they practice. Once they realize bodhicitta, then they practice the six perfections. But they practice these six perfections with the attitude of bodhicitta. So these six perfections are, the first one is generosity, okay? The second one is ethics, or nobody likes the word ethics because it sounds so restrictive. What do you mean I can't do what I want to do? But, we talk in Buddhism about ethics. I mean, it's a great way to practice mindfulness. We set some boundaries on our behavior. We have values and we make choices, and we choose to restrict our behavior. You get married and you take vows, to be with that person and not to step outside the marriage. So when the opportunity arises to cheat, for example, you go, well, wait a minute, I made a promise not to do that. And you pull yourself back. So vows, so having vows are a very important part of Buddhist practice. And so the bodhisattva vows, which are, I think, 18 root and maybe 46 secondary vows, they're all about the six perfections. So there's generosity, there's ethics, there's patience and tolerance, there's joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom. Those are the six perfections that a bodhisattva practices. So we can practice those even before we become a bodhisattva. And, we should. We should practice these even now. But, every opportunity we get, we want to practice it. But when we practice these six perfections with bodhicitta motivation, the results are enormous. So much more powerful to be done with that attitude in mind. All right, so what did I say? So let's see. Yeah. So bodhisattvas train in the 6 perfections to fulfill their own purpose, which is to become a Buddha, and to fulfill the purpose of others, which is to guide others from their current state of confusion. And yeah, confusion is a good way to say it. Suffering, dukkha, to be totally free of that. All right, so any questions about this?
Actually, Don, from two weeks ago, we have a question, but it's very relevant to what you were just covering. So the question is from a student on Zoom, and she asked, since love is such a loaded word in our culture, can you please talk a little bit more about love versus compassion?
Great, we will be there in a few minutes.
Okay.
It's coming. Actually, I think it's on the next page. Let's see. Ta-da. No. Close though. All right. So there are 2 methods. I will touch on that, I promise. I will. Let me make another note here. Because it's very, very important. And sometimes we use these words synonymously, but they're not the same thing. And, Buddhism defines love as the wish that beings could be happy and have the causes of happiness, and compassion as if beings could be free of suffering and the causes of suffering, right? So different. So here we go, the 2 methods to train the mind in bodhicitta. So this, again, these are things that I would request those of you, particularly those of you who are doing the whole, discovering Buddhism, all the modules. I mean, this is crucial that you memorize these 2 methods: the 7-fold cause and effect, and equalizing and exchanging self with others. This one is pretty easy to get. I mean, to understand. We'll talk about this one more tonight than this one. This one is based on an understanding of emptiness. This one, or at least it's empowered tremendously by an understanding of emptiness and the wisdom of selflessness or emptiness of the inherently existent self. So the step one in developing bodhicitta, and it makes sense, and it's usually not even considered in the 7-fold cause and effect. They don't even mention equanimity as one of those 7, but it's the basis of it. Because obviously, if we're biased, if we have friends over here that we love, and a whole group of people over here that are the vast majority of beings are strangers that we feel indifference toward or apathy toward, and then we have a handful of beings that we feel aversion toward, right? Even anger, even maybe would label them as enemies. So that's not going to work, because we're our goal as a aspiring bodhisattva is to achieve enlightenment, to liberate all living beings, to not just discriminate between, friends, strangers. Friends I want to get enlightened for sure. Strangers don't really care. And enemies, to heck with them, right? To heck with them. Which I could say something right now about love and compassion. So if you hate who's like public enemy number 1 in your mind? You can just say it quietly to yourself. I don't need to know. But whoever you think is like the bad guy. And or maybe you want to go back and use Adolf Hitler or somebody like that, or Stalin or whatever. Or I remember Saddam Hussein when he died. I mean, so many people were happy, rejoicing in the death of this man, right? So if somebody that you despise suffers, you hate, you rejoice. That's not good. That also creates a lot of heavy negative karma for us, rejoicing in somebody else's death, right? So in order to cultivate compassion, first of all, we have to feel connected. We have to feel some sort of affection, some sort of deep affection or connection with that being. I mean, for example, your children. If your child is suffering, you know, that your dear beloved child, only son or daughter is suffering, you automatically you feel compassion. It's not the words that we use are may she or he be free of suffering and its causes, but that's not compassion. Compassion is what you feel when you experience that moment of seeing someone that you feel that you hold near and dear and experience them suffering. You feel compassion. Okay? So again, it's important to have that feeling of being connected and feeling near and dear. Otherwise, compassion doesn't arise. Just because somebody's suffering, compassion won't arise unless we have the connection part of it. So that's important. So again, the love part is kind of, now some people might disagree with this. I don't think so though. But the love part really is a crucial part of developing compassion. And it's in this outline somewhere. So equanimity, okay, remember we talked about this is the unbiased loving compassion for all beings. We must first to have unbiased loving compassion for all beings, we must first free our minds from coarse attachment to friends and relatives, apathy or indifference to strangers, and hostility and aversion to enemies. So I just said it, but I'll say it again. You know, we usually, to do this meditation, we have someone that we feel attachment toward, and then we have somebody here that we feel that is sort of a faceless person, like, because it's the vast majority of sentient beings, we don't know them. We feel indifference toward them or apathy toward them, generally speaking. And then over here is somebody that we feel aversion toward. And so when we do this meditation, our job is to have equal regard for these three categories of beings: the friends, the strangers, and the enemies. It's not to say, and well, when we think, and this involves some analytical meditation where we realize that these are temporary labels. That, for example, the so-called friend is only a friend because they're the friend, because they said something nice that inflated our sense of ego, our self. So our egocentricity is actually our worst enemy. So is the friend of our worst enemy really our friend? That's a bad analogy, but I've heard that example before, but it's, but again, those relationships change all the time, don't they? I mean, how many people, I don't know about you, but I mean, the divorces, 50% divorce rate in this country or more. I mean, people that loved each other, now they're strangers or even estranged. It happens all the time. So these relationships are changeable. The friends can become strangers, you may never see them again, or they can become your, for you, public enemy number one. Okay? By the same token, the being that we feel we label as an enemy could become a few kind words, an apology, whatever, could transform that relationship back into a friendship. And then every one of our friends and enemies came from this little pot of people, this giant pot of people called strangers. So what we want to, and one thing we know for sure, everybody, every friend, every stranger, every so-called enemy wants exactly what we want. They want exactly the same thing, which is what? Yeah, they don't want to suffer and they want to be happy. Everybody's the same in that way. You can look right into their heart. And you know that, Jeffrey Hopkins said this one time, and it stuck in my head. He said, we know something very intimate about everybody. We know exactly what makes them tick. They want to be happy and they don't want to suffer. And we're all exactly the same in that way. So these friends, enemies, and strangers, these beings that we reify and label and react to them in special ways because of the labels that we put on them, and the labels are all completely changeable. And so what we're trying to do is to create a firm, solid foundation to build the palace of bodhicitta. And that foundation is equanimity, a mind of equanimity, okay? Where again, not easy to do, but it's just, we can do that. And I find of all of these meditations, this one's the one that's most helpful to me in day-to-day life, is doing that. Particularly, I like to go after the enemies, and try to work with that energy a little bit. So having equal, open-hearted care for others does not mean that we treat or trust everyone equally. Conventional roles in relationships still exist. We still have loved ones. We still have people that we're going to love, our family and our children. Obviously, we're going to have a special relationship with them. But what we're trying to do is develop what I call equal regard for the three kinds of being, okay? Where we're not clinging to the loved ones, and we're not feeling indifference toward or apathy toward the strangers, and we're not feeling aversion toward the enemy. We kind of let go of these labels and these experiences that we have that discriminate. All right, so we trust old friends more than strangers, even though we want both equally to be happy and free from suffering. But this meditation of equanimity is not about developing love and compassion. That's coming next. But it's developing equal regard, not putting people in boxes. All right, so the sevenfold cause and effect. So this is all we'll do tonight, promise. But 1 minute. How are we doing? Okay. Any questions so far? Say your name. Sam? Hey, any questions? You all right? Thank you. Well, seriously, this is a good time to ask. And this is easy to understand. Hard to realize, particularly the sevenfold cause and effect. First of all, this particular meditation that we're getting ready to talk about presupposes that you have some faith in rebirth. So not everybody, that's not part of our culture, but for Asians, very much a part of their culture, and Tibetans and Buddhists in general. But Hinduism, rebirth is, if you talk to Tibetans or, and people from Thailand, Buddhist countries and stuff, people kind of, most people have some faith, but in this country, not much faith in past and future lifetimes. But again, what I'm asking you to do is creatively align. You don't have to buy it, but just play with the notion that these things are actually possible, because they seem impossible. When I start describing to you what I'm getting ready to say, you're going to go, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. How's that possible? But just open to the possibility that is possible. All right, so the first thing is the first three help us cultivate love and compassion. Okay, so the first contemplation that we do is recognizing all SBs. What does SB mean?
Sentient
Abbreviation
beings.
for sentient being. Okay, sorry. What's a sentient being? Good question. I looked it up years ago. But yeah, what is it? A mind possessor.
Yes, mind possessor.
It's a being capable of feeling too. So same thing, capable of feeling. So recognizing all sentient beings as having been usually the texts say mother. Now again, we've had some people who have problems with mothers, and that's okay. In this culture particularly, there seem to be a lot of I'm not going to say bad mothers, but there's people that have issues with their mothers, So get over it. I'm just kidding, but it is as Peter, on one Sunday, I was we were presenting this information. Actually, it was coming from, somebody on the video that we had earlier on, and he was talking about how to, Ruben Rinpoche was talking about how to cultivate bodhicitta and how we need to see all sentient beings as having been mothers. And somebody said, well, I really have a problem with their mother. And then Peter, this guy who's been coming here for many years, he said, if we have problems with our mothers, maybe we should have compassion for our mothers. They didn't, maybe they screwed up pretty bad and didn't do a good job and even maybe left us. But, maybe we should give them a break because they're human beings. They want to be happy like we do, and they're suffering. Clearly, that kind of behavior comes from somebody that's suffering. So, but in this meditation, you want to pick somebody, and since for most people, the relationship with the mother-child relationship is the most profound, intimate relationship that anybody will ever experience, and at least at that level. And so usually you pick mother, but it could be the father, it could be whoever the caretaker was, it could be grandmother, grandfather, aunt, uncle, whoever that was, or even, best friend, but whatever, it should be somebody that, like that. And what you want to do is see, and the way you do this is, one of the ways you do is you say, okay, my mother, when I do this, I go, okay, my mother of this life has been my mother in past lifetimes, and she will be my mother again in countless future lifetimes. And Robbie's been my mother, and Linda's been my mother, and Jivan's been my mother, and will be again, and has been in past lifetimes, and will be in future lifetimes. So we just open up to the possibility that everybody has, because in every lifetime we've had to have a mother to be born in every lifetime. So we want to open up to the possibility that every sentient being has been our mother, has been our family to us. But this is, now it's said, if you do this meditation well, this is one of the hardest ones. If you do this meditation well, when you walking down the street, one Buddhist monk said, when you do it well, when you're walking down the street, you automatically, without even knowing why, you feel a connection to people. Because you feel such a strong connection to your mother, or whoever you choose, that automatically you feel some connection. It's not, now the next step is to develop warmth. So here's where we contemplate their kindness. Now, you could also use situations like, for example, we benefit from the kindness of so many beings, like people who built this center, who donate money to support it, the electricity, the cars that we drove here. There's bazillions of beings that we are the beneficiary of their kindness. So just on that level, we benefit from other people's kindnesses. But here we're really talking about the kindness of the mother. And so in that meditation, I remember when I did it the first time, I started boo-hooing because I started thinking about my mother and what she had given. She taught me how to walk and first of all, she had me, carried me around for 9 months and then didn't sleep the last 3 months, I'm sure, because she's always turning over and had heartburn and then goes into labor, and that's not fun, and then has the baby and then feeds me from her body and then buys me clothes and changes my poopy diapers and does all of those things and teaches me how to walk and talk and takes me to school and blah, blah, blah. And you just fill in the blanks. The sacrifices that mothers have made for us is enormous. And even when I did this practice the first time, even at that, by the way, if you go to, guys that are in prison, and if you go to their mother and talk, their mothers, oh, my child did, even if they're mass murderers, the mothers are going to deny it. No, my little Joey would never have killed 30 people, with a bump stock machine gun. No, they just, mothers are that way. They just have such love and connection with their children. And so we remember the kindness of our mother of this life, and then we extrapolate that to the universal living beings in human form, okay? And so we imagine that we're surrounded by universal living beings in human form, and we're remembering the kindness of our mother until our heart is really touched by that. And then we extrapolate that to encompass all living beings. So then when we walk down the street, not only do we feel some sense of like connection, but we actually feel a sense of warmth that we don't even understand where it's coming from. But we've done this because we've done these practices so well that we actually feel a sense of warmth. Then the next step is the wish to repay their kindness. So your mother's been kind to you. Whose responsibility is it to repay the kindness of your mother? Now, this is a little bit of an iffy point. The Dalai Lama even says, he puts a question mark here, but it's really true. If somebody's been kind to you and done something really wonderful, then it's your responsibility to repay their kindness, isn't it? So, it's like we say it's my responsibility to repay the kindness of our kind mother sentient beings. And Lama Yeshe, over on the left, bless his heart, he died, I think, in 83. And he used to call everybody, I don't think everybody took it the right way, but he called everybody mother, kind mothers. But he would label beings as mother. Kind of like Richard Gere in that video that we saw in the first class, how Richard said he would, what did he say? Something like whenever he met anybody, he would say something like, may you be happy, or something like that. Did he say, isn't that what he said? It was just kind of a practice that he had come up with. Well, Lama Yeshe used to label everybody as kind mother. And he said, he used to say it just offhand, and something that I remember. Anyway, so we do these three contemplations to cultivate love and compassion. So when we do these well, it brings forth, and this is where, honestly, a deep affection and heartwarming love for all living beings. Now, of course, you understand what I'm talking about, but this is actually doing the practices to get to the point where you actually feel something, where you actually feel a deep affection and heartwarming love for all beings. Again, easy to understand, not easy to do. And this leads to compassion. Again, this has two aspects. Remember? We just talked about it. A sense of closeness to others. This is answering the question earlier. And concern for their suffering and dukkha. Okay? So we have to feel close, and we have to be aware of their suffering and want them to be free of it. So it has to be both. The sense of closeness and the sense of awareness of others' suffering. Then there's a possibility for compassion to arise. Now, how would a realization of emptiness enhance your compassion? Anybody gets this, they get extra credit. That's true, but that's not the answer I'm looking for.
So Don, if you can either repeat what people say or folks wait for the microphone, that's okay.
Yeah, okay. It's more than just ego. It's more than just it being ego-driven. How would a realization of emptiness enhance our compassion? So Siobhan's going for extra credit.
I'll try. Yeah. So if you realize emptiness, then you cut the root of ignorance. Then that allows you to understand the level of ignorance that everybody else is still in. So you naturally want to help them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So when we realize emptiness, and this is how Jeffrey Hopkins explained this, to my best of my recollection. When we realize that all living beings are, misperceiving reality, and because of misperceiving the sense of self as well as other, and realizing how everyone has the same sort of hallucination or misperception, and that misperception of egocentricity is what draws us into making decisions that lead to suffering. So when we realize emptiness, we can see how because people don't have that realization, they're suffering, tremendously. And so that understanding of emptiness can enhance our compassion, because we see how others are being drawn into suffering because of their misperception of reality. And, we want, again, that's one of our aspirations, is to be able to guide beings eventually to have that realization of emptiness. So that's good. Then moving along here.
Don, we have a quick question on Zoom.
Sure.
I think it was a student who was here at the first class and says that at the beginning, I think in the first class, you said that Atisha was responsible for one of these practices and Shantideva for the other.
I
Which
might
is
have
which?
that wrong. Maybe a Sangha. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, she just wants to know which is which.
Yeah.
Is Atisha with sevenfold?
I think Atisha was sevenfold cause and effect, and Shantideva, the lineage, I'll clarify that, was Shantideva, and the Lama Tsongkhapa merged those into that first meditation that we'll do next week. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So great resolve. So here we go. We've seen all sentient beings as having been mother. So we've got a sense of familiarity with everybody as having been somebody close to us, and we remember their kindness. And then again, we feel a real sense of closeness and warmth, heartwarming love, actually, wishing to repay their kindness. And then so there's love and compassion. And then after that, the next sort of fallout from that is this sort of great resolve, that we have all these kind mother sentient beings that are suffering, and we feel love and compassion for them, not a sort of unbiased love and compassion. And so our determination is to this wholehearted commitment to act to bring about others' happiness and protect them from suffering. And as Lama Zopa would say, it's really important to take this on yourself. It's my job. Lama Zopa would say, by myself alone. It's my job to bring beings from whatever state of confusion and suffering they're in now, and help establish them at the very least in nirvana, at least to establish them in a state of freedom from suffering. Actually, that is the commitment of this great resolve. Now, who can do that? So who could actually do that? Who could actually guide beings from confusion and suffering to being basically an arhat, and eventually a Buddha? Who could do that? Only somebody who'd been there before. Right? Somebody who'd already been to the top of the mountain, knew the way up, and now they're trying to help us get up there. And so the only person that could actually do that would be a Buddha, an enlightened being. Because what are the characteristics of an enlightened being? They have limitless power, limitless compassion, loving kindness, and importantly, skillful means. They know the minds of beings that they're with. You know, they know the minds of their students. They know the minds of people that they're working with. And they know what practices, what to say, what to do in every situation to be of benefit. Because that's what they live for, is to benefit. So the only being, the only person that could actually help us be free of our suffering would be a Buddha. And so at this point, you know, you've done all of these other meditations, you go, I really want to be able to do that. And the only person that could do it would be a Buddha. I guess I got to be a Buddha. I got to do what it takes to become a Buddha. All right? So that is bodhicitta. It's this, and next page. And we wrap it up with this. All right. The altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion. See, so it's not sentimentality at all. It's just, it's this universal love and compassion. It is a primary mental consciousness. Now, don't ask me what a primary mental consciousness is, but it is. And informed by two aspirations: to benefit sentient beings and to attain full awakening or Buddhahood in order to do that.
Do you mind if I ask a question at this point?
Sure.
So I can relate to this on a personal basis. If I know someone, or if I just have this mental concept that of someone, that then I can frame it up in a way to offer them love and compassion. But I'm wondering if for maybe a Buddha, is the concept that they can generate loving kindness and that they emanate that kind of energy for everyone, people that they know and do not know? I mean, how widespread? I mean, in a human environment, it seems like you need to have that physical connection. But I'm wondering what the theory is behind this.
Could you say that again, but summarize it?
So for me to relate to this, I have to think on a personal basis. In order for me to apply this, I have to know someone, or at least have a mental concept of someone to be able to try to accept them the way they are, express loving kindness and compassion, to try to want to help them alleviate their suffering. But I'm wondering, for someone, you know, that has attained a higher level of enlightenment, let's say, or consciousness, that energy goes beyond the physical manifestation, the personal aspect of having to know someone, or to have a mental concept of someone to actually put this into practice.
I'm not real, I mean, I hear part of what you're saying. I'm not real clear. Can anybody here say what he's saying another way? Because I'm not quite getting the essence of it.
Hang on 1 second.
Maybe
And I'll
another
just
way-
say real quick, while Kenny's getting the microphone, that in addition to Buddhas being having all those qualities you just mentioned, they're also omniscient, right?
Yeah.
So they're all knowing. So it's not like they have to know specific people.
and maybe another way of saying it is, sometimes we talk about taking on the suffering of others. You know, like for instance, when we go through a meditation exercise, we breathe in the suffering of others and breathe out love and compassion. But I have a hard time relating to that. I can't feel love and compassion for something or someone that I don't have a personal relationship with, or a mental concept of.
Right. Well, I hear what you're saying actually now. And that's why I've said last week, I said you start out, when you're doing Tonglen, taking, giving, that you start out with yourself. Because you know yourself pretty well. You know what your obstacles are. You know the struggles that you have, and you're working with the suffering that you're experiencing now, plus the suffering that you know you'll experience in the future. So you start with yourself, and then you work with people that are close to you. Let's make, because I get what you're saying. We need to make it real. Because to say, I want to become enlightened to liberate all sentient beings, wait a minute, that doesn't touch my heart. But when I think about it, I want to get enlightened to liberate myself and help my family to be successful, and to be happy. And then my neighbors or the people that I work with, and expand it out to make it real for you. So I think I'm hearing what you say. Yeah, we have to work with what we can work with. I mean, maybe Lama Zopa or Dalai Lama or somebody who's been practicing this at a deep level for many years, when they think of the kindness of universal living beings, their heart just completely opens to beings they don't even know. That is the vast majority, but that's not where we are. So we have to start where we are and work with what what touches. Because one meditation, for example, one of these meditations might be good for your mind. As George Dreyfus, this guy who's George Dreyfus said, the most powerful meditation is the one that changes your mind. Not some esoteric tantric meditation. No, the one that touches your heart, that affects your mind. That's the most powerful meditation for you. And for each of us, it's something different.
Yeah. Okay, but in the end, a very enlightened person can have effect on a much broader range of people, range of sentient beings. I suppose because of what they can kind of radiate from their more enlightened state, more omniscient place.
Omniscience, yeah. I mean, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
it
okay.
It is. I mean,
the bottom line was I was having trouble relating to how do you do this without actually having a personal relationship, or at least a mental concept of who you're trying to work with.
Yeah.
I guess in the end you can get beyond that.
I do think that it helps to start small, and I have said this to myself and other people. I said, we got to make it real for people, because, all sentient beings, I must become enlightened for all sentient beings doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. But I must become a better person and work toward enlightenment so I can be a better person for me and my family and the communities that I interact with. That's much more meaningful to me. And then, I can aspire. Again, these are aspirations to actually have the goal to become enlightened for all living beings. That's bodhicitta. But obviously, that takes lifetimes, not just 3 years or 6 weeks or whatever this course is. It takes lifetimes to be able to cultivate this for the vast majority of beings. I mean, it's not easy. Mm-hmm. And this one's the easy one. Actually, the Dalai Lama says the hardest meditation on here is to see all sentient beings as your mother. That's the hardest one, because our minds we don't think that way. All right, so let's kind of wrap it up, and let me see if I had anything else to say over here. All right. So bodhicitta, again, there are two aspects to bodhicitta. Two aspects: to benefit all sentient beings, and to attain full awakening in order to do that. So again, this is one of the things Jeffrey Hopkins says. He said, everybody wants to get enlightened, but then to benefit all sentient beings seems like well, that seems like some nasty tax you have to pay. I just want to get enlightened, I want to be happy. I want to be blissfully happy. You mean I got to help everybody else too? Oh my God. But no, that's the thing. It's both. It includes both. It's to benefit all sentient beings, and the method to do that is one's own enlightenment. It really is practical. If you want to help people, you got to get your act together. There's a lot of do-gooders out there, but there's no wisdom. When there's no wisdom, harm can be done, right? So we have to, like tomorrow morning, I might go, I'm going to go to Wake Med and do open heart surgery because I want to save somebody's life. But I'm not trained to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Obviously, I'm going to create a big mess because I'm not ready. So we have to become a Buddha to truly be able to benefit others. We have to become fully awake in order to benefit others. That's what bodhicitta is all about. So it's not difficult to understand. It requires patience and consistent effort to actualize. So these are the Dalai Lama's words. It's not that hard to understand, but to do this practice day after day after day, something begins to shift. Something will begin to shift. I would invite you to check it out, see if that's your experience. After generating effortful, because there are two kinds of bodhicitta. There's effortful, which is what we're doing, because not easy, it's not natural, and effortless, which is just spontaneous. It just comes so quickly. It just pops into the mind. Bodhisattvas like they're constantly aware of bodhicitta. They don't even have to think about it. It's just the air they breathe. All right. So having that attitude, I can't imagine how wonderful that would be. So let's see. After generating effortful or bodhicitta, we need to make it firm through repeated meditation and live this magnificent motivation through practicing the 6 perfections. All right. And we talked about the 6 perfections. So after we generate bodhicitta, or at least some awareness of what it is and some feeling for it. This is important. Not that it may take lifetimes to realize bodhicitta, but to just develop some to understand it and feel some connection to this. For some people, this is like, no, this is not where I am. I'm interested in my liberation and my happiness, and that's just perfectly fine. Some people, this is the Mahayana motivation. It's not for everybody. For example, there's Theravada Buddhism, which I love Theravada Buddhism. The motivation in Theravada Buddhism is individual liberation. I want to be free of suffering. I want to achieve nirvana. That's great. And those arhats that have achieved nirvana are amazingly compassionate, kind, generous, have such great qualities. But their goal is not full enlightenment for others. Their goal is individual liberation. Completely legitimate. So not everybody is ready for the bodhisattva path, but if you're attracted to this particular notion, then this is for you. This is what we all need to be practicing. And so, again, So anyway, we becoming a Buddha so that we may benefit sentient beings most effectively is worthwhile. And then there's conventional bodhicitta, which is what we're working on now. And ultimate bodhicitta is basically the wisdom of emptiness. So you hear the word bodhicitta, sometimes there are different levels, but ultimate bodhicitta is synonymous with emptiness. And what we're working on now is conventional bodhicitta. So, amen. Hallelujah. Okay, I told you it was going to be didactic tonight. Sorry. But we'll do the next week. We'll do the meditation that'll include, and then we'll talk about exchanging self with others next week too, because that's great. But we'll actually do the whole those 10 points that I talked about earlier. We'll do that meditation next week because I think we need to start becoming familiar with it. And if you, maybe I can get you that handout and you can post it of those points.
I can just take a picture of what you have and I'll
Okay.
put it together and
All
post
right.
it.
All right. Just make sure, I don't know if I said equanimity needs to be, a lot of times equanimity is not written down because it's a combination of the 7 cause and effect and exchanging self with others. But equanimity is always step number 1, even though it's not always listed as step number 1. All right, so let's take a couple of minutes and do some sort of digestion. Hopefully you don't have indigestion from all this information I poured on you. I apologize if it was too much, but just maybe a couple of things resonated with your mind and you find helpful. That's good enough. It's good enough. It doesn't. This will take time. But it's just the idea of bodhicitta is so amazing that and to meet people, and I feel blessed that I've had a chance to meet people that I think are the embodiment of it. It's just to be in their presence, to hear their words, to see how they live their lives is there's nobody like it. Now, most of us will never meet a holy being that has that kind of attitude. But what a special person who can have that attitude 24/7. So we've been doing some gardening, as Robina would say. We've been doing some gardening tonight, and we planted seeds. The soil was, the weeds were pulled, and we fertilized, and the ground was moist. So we planted the seeds, and these seeds will definitely grow into some virtuous and some beneficial result. So we want to dedicate these to the benefit of all living beings. We want to have the bodhicitta motivation in our dedication. So let's read the dedication prayer together. It's on page 246, Shan Shantidevas. Linda, you want to read?
Page 246. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may these never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world.
Okay. So next week, again, review, and then next week we'll do exchanging self with others, that particular method of developing bodhicitta. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. Thanks,
for
everyone online and in the Gampa. We'll see you next week.
Thanks. Good night.
I think we have a visitor from Wake Forest, I think, in the back, right? Yeah.